2017. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting?
Mr. Young?
Yes.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Unanimous? Okay, unfinished business and tabled items. These are many of these are old ordinances, so I'm looking for people. Beth?
Mr. Chair, item A, the ordinance amending Chapter 5 to require reauthorization for previously approved capital improvements. The way that it is written and throughout it is considerably old, really old, and refers to 2015, December 14th, 2015, and things like that. It's so old that I think that we can't actually have a substantive discussion on it. I would, if anybody wanted to, they could rewrite it and have it reintroduced, but at this point, I'd like to see this item striked from the agenda.
Is that a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to see this item strike from, for the item to be striked from the agenda.
Second.
Is there any debate?
I'm sorry, what was the motion?
To strike item
Exactly.
A.
I was going to do. Yeah.
Discussion.
Any discussion?
I'd like to rewrite it so that it's contemporary, and I think there is a need to have some oversight on how previously approved CEP or CIP monies that were surplus monies were then reallocated. If anyone wants to join me in that, I'd welcome the group effort so we can introduce something that's contemporary and appropriate.
Mr. Fonte?
No, thank you, Councilman Can. But at the same time, I think we should strike this and then reintroduce something that is more pertinent and more on the mark.
Motion on the floor is to strike ordinance A. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Chairman says aye. Unanimous. Are there others that people would like to take off the tables and discuss?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to take off item C, an ordinance amending Chapter 14 of the Code of the Town of Stratford, Connecticut, to prohibit contributions to town campaigns by town contractors and prospective town contractors.
Second.
Mr. Chairman, this particular ordinance has been talked about, that it closely follows, I believe it was Mr. Chase, closely follows the rules put forth by the state statutes and with regards to the state of Connecticut, and that there's very little deviation from that. In our last meeting,
I'm sorry, point of order. Are you making this, are you, Mr. Chair, are you?
All in favor of taking this off the table?
Aye.
Aye.
anyway, the piece is clear, and in the last meeting, you were scheduled to investigate any information regarding this particular ordinance so that we could move it. Do you have any update?
I have not gotten an update on that from anybody. Alex, do you know anything?
An update on what?
C?
Mr.
Ordinance?
Chairman, did you get an update as
I
requested?
did not.
Did you request one?
What's that? At the
Did you
meeting we
request
did,
one?
yes. At the meeting we did.
From the town attorney's office?
What's that?
From the town attorney's office?
Yes.
I have, our firm certainly wasn't working on this. I mean, I would follow up with Attorney Hodgson.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So, Mr. Chairman, you did not investigate this as you said you would. Can we move that? I'd like to move this forward, and if there's any chance to take a vote on it, because I don't see any issues with it, and if you didn't do the job that was requested, I don't think we can wait any longer. So I'd like to put forward this and see if it passes.
Mr. Chase?
Yeah, I would agree with moving it forward to the town council, and then in the interim, Mr. Florek, get us an opinion on this, please?
I will, I'll get in touch with Attorney Hodgson this evening or tomorrow morning about that.
Thanks.
Mr. Ponte?
I have real concerns about this just because it is so broad, and I do think that we need an attorney's opinion on this. And I've spoken on this ordinance before, but it was probably about a year ago. It's so broad. It gives, so the town council, so if you read this, I mean, essentially, it's prohibiting contributions to town campaigns by any contractors and any prospective town contractor. I don't actually know what a prospective town contractor is. It means, so looking at this, it's any person, business entity, or nonprofit organization that submits a response to a town contract solicitation by the town in response to an RFP. It's, I mean, that can be so, it's just so broad. I don't know where that would end, and I don't know how, how the town would monitor this.
Chairman?
So that's part of my concern, and then the other part is that I do think that we need a town attorney's opinion on this before it gets moved to town council. I don't want to see this bogging down a town council meeting.
Mr. Chase?
Yeah, I think Ms. DePonte makes a good point, but certainly Mr. Floric has heard her concern, and that could be part of their analysis of this proposed ordinance.
Mr. Ponte?
Can I just ask then that it come back to ordinance and that this not go to a town, to the town, I understand that it would be going to the town council possibly with the town attorney's opinion, but I would rather see the town attorney's opinion in the ordinance committee, and then we need to do our job here, which would be to forward it with favorable or unfavorable recommendation once we see that opinion.
All right, I'll agree with the chairman. We can
Chairman.
do that.
Ma'am?
I disagree. I think that we've waited too long. We've been criticized for not passing laws, for not moving ordinances, and I think this is one of them. We've asked our chairman to ask this question. Obviously, the question was not asked by Chairman Young. However, we can move this to the council, and in the interim, Mr. Floric has expressed that they can get to work on this, and I don't see any issue with moving this forward, except for the fact that we are currently in campaign season, and certain folks may be wanting to accept campaign donations from attorneys and contractors. And if that is the case, I think that that is inappropriate and a real problem in weighing in on our decision to move this. I hope that is not the case. I think we need to move this forward to our next council meeting, and it can be tabled there if the opinion is not ready. But we as a council, we've been sitting on this for over a year. Come on.
Now, since we did ask Mr. Hodgson to work on this, he was tasked with that. For all I know, he does have some stuff for us on it, but he hasn't sent it to me. So I don't know on that matter. But he was directly asked right here to look into this matter and clear it up for us. So that's where it sits at this point. Mr. Ponte?
Mr. Chair, I did hear you say that you had asked, we witnessed you asking for the information. I think that we need to, again, ask the town attorney what the holdup is in it. Sometimes there is miscommunication. I don't like the innuendo or accusation that it's because of self-interest that I would want to hold this up. I simply want to see the ordinance committee do what it's supposed to be doing, which is referring things to town council with a favorable or unfavorable recommendation. I don't want to see a town council meeting become bogged down with something that should have occurred at ordinance, and it's the more appropriate place to review the town attorney's opinion and to review this ordinance is the ordinance committee, not the town council committee, not in the town council meeting.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree. I think that as an ordinance committee, we should perform our duties and do our due diligence here, and then have the proper amount of information before making a favorable or unfavorable recommendation to the town council. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move the question.
All in favor of
Moving
then
the
leaving this on the table or putting this back on the table?
No,
Oh.
One more comment, please.
No, somebody asked,
Call the question.
Okay.
Was it seconded?
second. I believe you proposed to move it forward, Ms. Manis.
So it's either move it forward, so if it doesn't get moved forward, it won't be,
Then it goes back on, motion to put it back on the table.
if it go back on the table, I don't know.
We could vote no on calling the question and allow Mr. Can to provide his input.
It doesn't take 15 minutes.
Roll call.
Anyone have a Bible I can read from for the pleasure of Mr. Chase? Or I could just read from the town charter and everybody could disagree
Mr.
with its
Chair- Mr.
provisions.
Chairman, there is a motion that's been seconded, and the question has been called.
And so,
Is my 15 minutes up, Mr. Chairman?
I request a roll call, please.
now the roll call, the question on we're calling right now is
Roll call vote on whether or not we're going to call the question.
call the question, right? Exactly. Mr. Ponte?
Aye.
I'm going to let Mr. Can have his comments on no.
Can I pass? I was late and I just came in the middle.
No.
No. Oop. Go ahead, Missy.
No.
Yes.
No.
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 Get out your Bible.
Mr. Khan?
Steal the can, man, huh? All right. Tina's motion was to move it forward to the town council. This has been in front of the ordinance committee for the last 14 months. I'm not sure how it got there, it preceded me, but I'm sure it was duly vetted and ordained prior to that moment. Tina inferred that it was based on the state of Connecticut's own statute, and given that the attorneys had a role in authoring it, and that 14 months ago it had no issues, that if they want to take a second pass at it, then I believe it's entirely appropriate to demonstrate action, to move it forward to the council, and if there is any issues of it, then Attorney Hodgson will have his opportunity over the intervening 2 weeks to present his concerns that he had not otherwise represented when this was put together. So I agree with Ms. Manis's motion to move it forward to council.
Chairman?
Mr. Chase?
This came before us very early in our term. It was initially put forth by Councilman Duma at the time. He and I had a number of discussions regarding this, and this is modeled after state statute. I think Mr. Ponte makes some good comments concerning the viability of sections of this, and certainly the town attorney can address those issues. As far as prohibiting people from accepting contributions from a contractor or prospective contractors from doing business with the town of Stratford, at a previous discussion with, on this committee, Ms. Manis did make the statement that this should be effective with the next election, not the current one. So I think there are some questions that I'm in agreement with Mr. Llewellyn that we probably should have the town attorney look at those couple of points, get back to us, and move this along. There's no reason to, I mean, it's not, won't be effective for the current election, so I don't see any reason to rush this through.
Mr. Passer?
Respectfully, Mr. Chase, through the chair, I don't see any reason why we should hold it up either. I think this is something, once we have an opinion from the town attorney, that we can discuss at the council level. Why let it stay in ordinance and prolong it any longer than the year and a half or more that it's been prolonged?
Mr. Ponte?
I just want to answer Mr. Farrington Posner's question. The question was, why not put this on a town council agenda? And the answer to that question, as you know, is sometimes our agendas get quite lengthy. and there just isn't enough time in a night to give this the fair amount of wide-awake thought that it requires. So I would very much prefer for it to stay in ordinance until it has a favorable or unfavorable recommendation, unless that recommendation is made clearly to the town council. We should be debating these things here and not putting more onto town council agendas than necessary.
Mr. Chairman, as of now, our agenda for the next town council meeting is actually very thin. There's not a lot going on it, and I think that would be a perfect time for us to discuss this.
Mr. Ponte?
Through the chair, it's thin now, but if you've ever put together a town council agenda, as Mr. Chase can attest to, and Ms. Cabral can attest to, 4 hours before the due time, it could become quite thick. So it doesn't necessarily mean that it will stay thin for August.
Mr. Llewellyn?
Another thing that's kind of rolling around in my mind is, given the way that some of our full council meetings have happened, I'm concerned about sort of live debating a town attorney issue. I think if we were to have that debate and call into question aspects of the town attorney's ruling, we should be doing that in this forum, not during a town council meeting. One of the other things I'm interested in seeing the town attorney's rule on is whether or not this is an overstep into areas that are under control of the Connecticut State General Statutes, and whether or not we can, basically deputize our finance director to perform the work that the SEEC performs, the State Elections Commission performs up in Hartford. So, I think there are some very real questions that need to get answered and addressed here. Thank you.
Mr. Khan?
I was going to address Mr. Florek, just to assure that he would bring back through Attorney Hodgson a response based on the concerns that we presented here tonight. Alex?
In the meantime, Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Pauser.
okay, so if this were to be kept in ordinance, would we have to wait till the next ordinance meeting at the end of August when, there's still people on vacations and getting ready to go back to school? Or is this something, if we can get an opinion from the town attorney in like the next week or two, that we could have a special ordinance committee meeting called by you?
It wouldn't be applicable this election anyway.
Whether it's this election or not, it does, I'm just saying, is this something you would call a special ordinance committee meeting?
Sure, I'll do that, no problem. No, and if he sends me that stuff in the next week, I'll make sure you guys all get copies of it, and we'll go from there.
Okay, thank you.
Like to call the question?
I think Mr. Can had a question from Mr. Florek.
I don't know. You aren't the chair. I'd like to call the question.
I'm sorry about that. There was a question.
You want to be...
Who had a question? Mr. Can?
Yes, thank you, Alex. Before we call the question or an end debate, we're going to decide whether to send this to town council and await the attorney's opinion, or the attorney's additional contribution to the validity or the content of this, or do we keep it in ordinance? And I would just, since we had maybe a miscommunication, would you assure that Attorney Hodgson in the office would give this a thorough vetting and...
Yeah, and as I recall, this proposed ordinance was actually sent out to outside counsel to review,
Oh, wow.
obviously, because it dealt with, it included town attorneys. So the town attorney's office sent it to outside counsel. And I believe that was last year when it was first.
I was gonna say.
But, I think they could get you that opinion by the council meeting. I'm sure they can get you an opinion by the next council meeting. Is that the question?
It is, or at least by the next ordinance meeting.
Yeah, I'm sure they can do that. There might already be one. I just don't know. Our firm didn't work on it, but I recall that last year it was sent out to another law firm, so
Okay.
they might already have it.
Okay, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Pauser?
Just a few minutes ago when we started talking about this, I know, Mr. Florek, you had said that your firm had nothing to do with it. You didn't handle it, and you believed it was Mr. Hodgson was working on it. Now you said there's outside counsel. Do you happen to know who the outside counsel was that was selected?
No, I don't know. I don't know who Attorney Hodgson sent it out to. As I think about it now, I mean, this is an ordinance I haven't thought about at all since last spring. A, because it hasn't been considered since last spring, and B, our law firm didn't work on it. My recollection is, now that I think about it again, I think Attorney Hodgson sent it to outside counsel.
How long ago would you say that was?
I couldn't say.
Thank you.
Mr. Luan?
Mr. Chairman, perhaps a way to kind of satisfy everybody in this matter would be to try to get the opinion from outside counsel, have it issued to us as councilperson/ordinance committee members as soon as possible, and then look into having perhaps a special ordinance meeting at 6 o'clock before our next council meeting. We could then make a favorable recommendation, do an agenda modification, and this way I think everybody can kind of get what they're looking for.
Good idea.
Thank you.
I agree with that.
Can we make that a motion?
Yes, so moved, Mr. Chairman.
Second.
And point of
Debate.
order, I believe there's a motion already on the table to move it forward or not.
Okay. All right, any discussion on the motion on the floor now?
I'll withdraw.
Ms. Mass withdraws.
So,
Was it me? I withdraw. There's been so many motions. You want
through
to
the
call the
chair.
question?
Yes, move to call the question, Mr. Chairman.
All right. Call a question to leave this on the table, dependent upon getting the lawyer's opinion and having it
Second.
before the next meeting. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye.
That was painful.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
I'd like to remove ordinance regarding competitive bidding, mayor's ability to hire professional contractors off the table. I'm ready to bid affirmatively for this today. Motion to move it.
Second.
Discussion?
Mr. Chair?
What's that? Oh, to take it off the table? Vote to take it off the table? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Mr. Fonte? Discussion?
Is this a discussion to move this favorably or unfavorably? It's to move it favorably. Okay, just wanted to be clear.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to move the following section 14-4 of the Code of Stratford, Connecticut be amended to include the following as read. I believe Part C is the addition. I'd like to move this forward to the town council for vote.
Second.
Discussion? Ms. Manis?
Oops.
The reason that I'm ready to move this, and we weren't ready to move this, is due to the continued ambiguity in the budget moving forward with regards to certain line items and different things, contractual expenses, and all of those things. I think it needs to be more laid out, and I think we need to have, whatever council is here, needs to have a better handle on the professional services and consulting contracts that exceed $10,000. I am in agreement, I believe Ms. DePonte put this forward, Chair DePonte, I'm in agreement that we need to have more transparency regarding who and what and where and why, because I believe Mr. Can has been asking for months for clarification regarding contractual services, and it hasn't come forward. I think there's a lot of line items in our budget that are said that they're contractual, and no one's really giving that information, so I'm ready to vote affirmatively for this. It's just a safeguard for councils going forward to make sure that money isn't put into a line like anticipated expense at $500,000, and we don't know where it's going.
Mr. Fonte?
Mr. Chair, I just wanted to provide a little background for this. I put this forward, and this, again, this was some time ago. I put this forward out of frustration because in our charter, I had asked the town attorneys what prevents, if anything, a mayor from hiring anybody for $1 million. And the response I got was that there's nothing right now that prevents a mayor from doing so. So to me, the only thing to discuss, I put this forward with a $10,000 limit. I don't know if that's too low. I've gotten some feedback that that's too low. We'd be looking at lots of different things. Maybe it's too high, but I guess I would like to have other feedback from counselors about that $10,000 number. It's a round number, but so it's easy to remember, but perhaps it's overburdensome or ties the hands too much.
Just to follow up, if I can, is I like the number, and one of the reasons I like the number is because it's an even round number. I get it, but there have been questions regarding budgets that are not our own, okay, with contractors being hired. And I think that this is an example that the town council municipal side needs to do, and perhaps Board of Ed will follow suit. And this will become the way we do business around here. We need to, if we're gonna hire consultants, we need to know how much they're charging and what they're doing, and then we need to know where that money's coming from, because there are a lot of places where that's happening in our municipal budget. There's contractors hired and contractual services, and we saw this happen with the budget. So I have no problem with $10,000. If it becomes a problem, you can always come back to the councils that follow to be amended. I just think right now, and seeing what I've seen over the last few months, I think that it needs to happen as soon as humanly possible. Thanks.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. I just have one question. I do know that the ability for the mayor to hire a professional contractor is in the charter. My question is, are we amending the charter with this?
No, you wouldn't be amending the charter. This would be an amendment to an existing ordinance. This body couldn't unilaterally alter the charter. That would have to go to a charter revision commission and then a referendum to the town electorate.
Mr. Fonte?
Just as a point of background, I was told that there were two ways to change the mayor's power with respect to the hiring of contractors. One way indeed is modifying the charter. The other way is more specific, which is to pass ordinances that specifically address issues. So this is the latter.
Correct. Mr.
Scott?
Thank you, sir. First let me get orientated. We're on item D. And I agree with with making the revision to this section, competitive bidding. I would ask that we increase the dollar amount. There are a number of seasonal employees in Public Works and Recreation Department, and also counselors in the Health Department that are not hired as regular employees, but as per diem or, quote, under the contractual umbrella. And we had asked Mr. Timiak to provide a list of those contracts so we could see which ones may exceed 10,000. And that's one of the number of many things that he's chosen not to respond to. So just with the risk that 10,000 may prevent a healthcare counselor who's per diem in nature from continuing their work with the town of Stratford, maybe we increase it to 20,000 just to play it safe. But otherwise, I would agree with the.
Santoso?
In response to Mr. Khan, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I believe that the mayor is not the person hiring health people, et cetera. This is specific to the mayor's ability to hire professional contractors, which is covered in the charter. But as Mr. Ponte says, this is just limiting the amount. Specifically the mayor. I believe the other items you mentioned as contractors are not hired by the mayor. I may be wrong.
Mr. Fonte?
Thank you. I would hope that I mean, the point you raised, Ms. Antezo, is an interesting one, because I hope that there wouldn't be a loophole in terms of somebody hired as a consultant for a large amount of money, but simply not hired technically by the mayor. So if this needs to be rewritten, perhaps the town attorney who is present can give us advice on that?
Is this a proposed amendment to, I don't even have the proposed ordinances in front of me for tonight. I assume you're talking about 14-4, Section B of the Town Code?
Mr. Floric? Here.
And adding
Mr.
C.
Floric?
And your specific question was what, Ms. DePonte?
Well, Ms. Antezo raised the possibility that if a consultant was hired by somebody else in the town, that wouldn't, somebody other than the mayor, that this wouldn't apply to that situation. And I was just saying, I hope that wouldn't be the case, that the mayor's ability would cover the administration, or should we just have a set, maybe this doesn't have to even come under that. Maybe it should be revised to say the administration's ability.
I mean, I
don't want there to be a loophole.
I understand that, and, you know, I don't want to just off the cuff give you an answer on that tonight. I haven't looked at it. It hasn't been researched, at least by me or our law firm. I mean, we could also have an answer for you at the Ordinance Committee meeting on August 14th. I'm not sure if Attorney Hodgin has looked at this or has sent it to another firm to look at.
Ms. Manis?
So I understand the part of the charter that Ms. Antezo is referring to, and it's right here, written again for us. I don't believe our ability to stop contractual services is written right into the budget with the department heads. The department head money flows as the line item, the first items in there, and then they break it up. They can move things around. We saw consultants being hired in the health department regarding the opioid crisis. We saw their ability to do that under the grant. They well exceeded many things. They were not hired by the mayor. So those particular departments can't just spend money without the council approving it in the budget. But those line items like anticipated expense, those flow directly from the mayor's office. Those contingency accounts flow directly. Those are run by Mr. Timniak and the mayor's office. That money is reallocated. So the money for the department heads and the supervisors is approved by the council. They have a small contingencies based on other things. Those other pieces are all under the mayor's discretion. So I don't think Mr. Can's worry is it's already written into the budget. And if the mayor needs to hire somebody, and they need to hire another consultant to do something else, whether it's public safety or whatever, and they come before the council, I can't imagine the council saying, you can't have $30,000 from anticipated expense to hire that person. The concern is, there are people, and it's not in the municipal side, I'm just going to say in another organization, that $50,000 was spent on a consultant to create an entire plan, and no one really knew how much money was being spent, and the public isn't aware. So you gotta know who's spending what when. And I think that if we can do it on the municipal side, we offer transparency to a lot of the line items that are so ambiguous. We just need to make sure if it's anticipated expense, it's anticipated expense. But if it's going to pay for a person, a job of someone, we should know that. We had that issue with one of the nonprofits that we give money to, and all of a sudden we found out, two of them actually, that the money that was in there paid for positions. And it was in there to pay for positions. So if the mayor has access to all of those funds on all of those line items, the jobs that you defund, for example, public safety was defunded last year. It still exists. Jobs can be moved around. What the council says doesn't matter at the end of the day because the money is still there sitting and can be used for whomever and whatever you want. I think this is wise. I think we need to do it. It doesn't mean people aren't going to get hired. It just means the council gets a say. And I want to see the council moving forward, whoever's in these seats, having a say. They don't have a say. Thanks.
Mr. Ponte?
I think I'd like to, before I formally offer this amendment to this, I just want to introduce it. So right now, it says professional services consulting contracts to any individual or firm exceeding $10,000 in an annum shall require the approval of the town council. I think I'd want to modify this to be $10,000 in an annum that is not explicitly indicated in the annual operating budget of the town, because it's those sorts of things that we're worried about, not the planned expenses and not the planned people who are being hired as consultants, but it's the unplanned who we don't even know about. We don't necessarily know their names or what they're doing or what their deliverables are. Okay, so I would like to make that as a formal amendment to this. So it'd be $10,000 in an annum that is not explicitly indicated in the annual operating budget of the town shall require the approval of the town council.
I'll second that, and I'd like to be added as a co-sponsor.
Mr. Chairman.
Fantasia?
Thank you. Well, I agree with the direction you're going in. I figured out that actually most consultants get between $75 and $100 an hour. At $100 an hour, you're talking about 100 hours, which is 2.5 weeks. That's an awful short work period for somebody that's, and I don't even know what maybe they're trying to do necessarily, but that's, I think maybe $10,000 is too low.
Mr. Chairman, I think, Ms. Antezo, the objective isn't that we're going to limit it to $10,000 and that no consultant could be hired if they're over $10,000. The idea is that if somebody's coming in, for example, Roosevelt Forest had the beaver issue, right? We had a consultant come in, look at the thing, say what was going on. Oh, try this, try that. It was like a 1 or a 2 week issue. The man came in, he did a survey, he looked at some stuff. If you need to hire someone to do that kind of a small, give you some advice, do that, fine. That's almost like a simple expense that you don't want to tie that up. But if it's going to go on for longer than that, that's great too, but we should have some knowledge that it's going on and have the ability to say yes or no. Have the ability to say, yes, we want to do this project, or we need to rethink about this, or why isn't so-and-so doing this project? So, there are certain things in town hall that they're done as town projects by consultants that we might question and say, but don't we have people in public works that could do it? Oh, no, we can't. Oh, okay, that's fine. It just opens transparency for the public. It allows them to understand why we need to hire these people, what are their special skills and services that they're bringing, and helps them understand where their tax dollars are going. It doesn't mean we can't hire somebody for $1 million, because we could, and we might need them.
I'd like to call the question on that amendment. Is there-
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye.
Chair says aye.
Call the question.
No,
Oh, sorry.
Vote on the amendment first.
that we just did. Oh, no, you're right, we called the question.
still.
Yeah.
Okay. Mr.
Go ahead.
Ponte, you want,
No, vote on the amendment.
can I get a motion to,
I would request Mr. Llewellyn had to take an emergency phone call that he's, okay, he's back.
can I get a motion to move the question for this?
No, that was for the amendment, that was calling the question for the amendment. We need to vote on the amendment.
To forward this resolution 14-4 with a favorable recommendation to the town council as amended.
We didn't vote on the amendment yet.
We still have to vote on the amendment.
We still have to vote on the amendment.
Could you read the amendment, please?
Oh, we did vote on it.
Or repeat the amendment,
All right, more discussion?
people that weren't here?
All those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
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 Mr. Ponte?
That passed, correct?
Yes.
Okay. The second amendment I would like to make to this is rather than $10,000 in an annum, it would be $10,000 in a fiscal year, to make it explicit that this is attached to the fiscal year.
Yes.
Year.
Second?
Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, for the benefit of Mr. Llewellyn, could someone please read the First Amendment that passed for his benefit?
The First Amendment that passed, the chair asked me to read this, is professional services consultant contracts to any individual or firm exceeding $10,000 in an annum that is not explicitly indicated in the annual operating budget of the town shall require the approval of the town council.
Thank you.
The second amendment is to get rid of Adam.
And the Second Amendment?
And the second amendment would be, go to individual or firm exceeding $10,000 in a fiscal year that is not explicitly indicated in the annual operating budget of the town.
All in favor of the Second Amendment?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous?
Mr. Chairman, I move the question.
Second.
Okay, so we're voting to send this 14-4 with a favorable recommendation to the town council,
As amended.
as amended.
Roll call.
Roll call.
You have to.
Mr. Ponte?
Aye.
Yes.
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 Yes. Yes.
Yes. Unanimous.
Excellent.
Motion passes unanimously.
Unanimous.
That's one.
Okay,
Left.
that's it.
Sir, Mr. Chair, I'd like to take item 3B off the table.
Was that seconded?
I second it.
Yeah, it's been second.
Can we vote to take it off the table?
Yes. All those in favor of taking it off the table?
Aye.
Chair says aye. Unanimous?
Can I,
Discussion?
Chair?
Yes. Mr. Khan?
On this page, someone who's more familiar, is it really paragraph A of this section that is being amended? And it looks like only a few sentences are being added to the bottom. And this would be enough to, the idea of piggybacking on public bidding through the State of Connecticut's Department of Administrative Services seems to be the main objective, but we're not really directing that purchases go through that process. We're just saying there won't be any conflict. Who wrote this originally? I think the intent is appropriate. Just want to make sure the language will get the result that we're looking for.
I believe this was put forward by Ms. DePonte.
Having a senior moment.
Any other discussion?
Mr. Chairman?
Suggested it, yeah.
My only concern with this, and perhaps Ms. DePonte, who's the proponent of the ordinance, can speak to it, is that I do not want it to require another body in Town Hall to make sure that it's happening. I do not want to create more government and more bureaucratic red tape for the competitive bids and processing to happen. So, yes, I use the state service, I use BizNet, when I go and look for contractors at my own position in my own job in the state. It is a great tool. It is very time-consuming. So I want to make sure that this, which job would this fall under? Whose responsibility would it be to make sure that it happens? And my other question is, what is to say that it will happen? Like, what's this, how do we know it's actually happening? Are they, like, I have to submit 3 bids if I don't use a contractor. I have to submit like 3 separate bids sheets, and if I do use a contractor, I have to submit the bid sheet with my PO, with my OF-95. So how do we know that this we passed this bill, how do we have passed this ordinance, how do we know it's actually happening? Maybe she can answer.
I'm really racking my memory. This is 16 months ago. A lot has happened since then. But if I remember right, this was simply to allow the town's purchasing department to use the cooperative purchasing plan. It wasn't a must. It was simply to allow them to when the opportunities exist. Right now, if I remember right, our charter is written so everything has to go out for competitive bidding, and it's competitive bidding at the town level, which at times is inefficient. So this was to allow for more efficiencies and to participate in that purchasing plan. So hopefully we'd be able to get lower prices and not spend as much time running around trying to get our own town's bids, but really be able to think more about regionalization and operating as an entity within the state of Connecticut rather than as independent as we sometimes act, which can be inefficient.
Thank you. Support the ordinance. Thank you.
Santezo?
I have a couple of comments. I believe it was Sue that mentioned this a long time ago, but I wonder if Section B of this is in contradiction to the competitive bidding, mayor's ability to hire professional contractors, because Section B says competitive bidding shall not be required for contracts for professional services. In any other case where competitive bidding is not required by law and either clearly is not practical or no advantage would result to the town by requiring competitive bidding, the mayor may authorize the execution of a contract without competitive bidding. Do you find that in contrast or contradiction?
No.
Is there?
Mr. Long?
I'll let Mr. Ponte answer.
No, I think you're going to provide the same answer.
Probably. Go ahead.
It's, if you look at 14-4 under competitive bidding, under B, it says explicitly that competitive bidding shall not be required for professional service contracts. So this is not in contradiction. This is just to allow for us to participate in the state's cooperative purchasing plan.
Okay.
It doesn't speak to that issue.
The other point I was trying to make, Mr. Chairman, was would there be any help in actually asking our financial person to review this and give us comment? I don't know.
Yes?
When this was put forward, and I remember that it was former financial chairman that suggested that this would be a more efficient, cost-efficient, and it's written right in there. So I think that has already been done, and I remember her speaking, it's in the minutes for those meetings. One of the things that I think, and I'm going to put it on record for council moving forward, is that it provides efficient and cost-efficient procurement of goods and services. If for any reason that does not continue, then this ordinance should be looked at again. If it creates more bureaucracy, which costs us more money in the end, whether it's a person or a whole department that has to be developed, I think we need to look at that. So I'm saying that now, so if in 5 years from now this becomes a monster, people have the ability, I think that that's really good that that's in there. It's supposed to be for efficiency. That's the point.
Mr. Chairman.
I think the finance person already said that.
Mr. Long?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's important that we note, kind of to Tina's concern about having various department heads combing the the DAS website. It does specifically call out the purchasing department as the user party engaged in this. And also, I believe the reason why the competitive bidding is not required when you use BizNet or do the cooperative purchasing plan is because all the rates for the goods and services are basically known beforehand. They're predetermined and are posted on the website, so it's like ordering from a restaurant.
Mr. Chairman?
Bowser?
For somebody
let
who
Ms.
uses, I
Manis
just
go.
want to say, for somebody who uses BizNet every day, because I'm department head with 6 departments under me, when you go into Biz, you have a contract, and you have to go through the contract, and you can use keywords, or you can look for like Cisco, or you can look for Lakeshore Learning, or you can do Procore for the machines all the way at UConn. Like, they have everything from soup to nuts, their HVAC equipment and all of it. To know how to get through that program and to be able to know where you're going, certain things, it does become cumbersome, and those contracts that are in there expire, and some of the contracts in there are lengthy. So I want to make sure that the purchasing department knows what they're looking at. They may need to talk to someone who's familiar with the state piece, because it takes a while to learn. I've been a department head for 3 years, and I'm still learning all the pieces of it. There's a lot in there, and there's a lot of cost savings, but you got to know how to navigate the system. So, do we have human capital in our ranks here that do that? Is that something that they're ready and able to do?
Mr. Bowser?
Just to piggyback on what Ms. Manis was saying about possibility of creating an extra position or even department, that would be one concern of mine. And is that something that we can put into the language of this to stop that from happening? I don't know if that's within our purview or not. Also, this is something I think that we should be discussing with the finance director and the CAO moving forward. So maybe we should put it toward the council and be able to, even if we send an email jointly together to the CAO to get some more information, that we can deal with it on the council level at that point.
Mr. Khan?
Thank you, Chair. Tina, Scott, this new sentence that nothing in this section shall be construed to limit the ability of a town of Stratford to enter into a contract pursuant to. So this apparently provides them another avenue to get competitive bidding, low bidding, to participate in BizNet if they find that it's a good return on their investment. Nothing about creating a new position, nothing about them incurring extra overhead. It simply offers them an opportunity to participate, and we can encourage them to participate. It doesn't mandate them to participate, so.
Is it our business, can we do that? It's the state enters into contracts, but I don't know, for the town attorney, are we allowed to just say we're gonna take advantage of state contracts, like SNS Worldwide?
It's the whole point of BizNet.
Yeah, I can call SNS Worldwide and get 20% off because I'm a state contractor. Are we considered state contractors as a municipality? Because they are given that contract because they are in a group. So all the tech schools, UConn, all the health centers, because they are under the state of Connecticut, they're able to do that collective bidding. What gives us the right to say, we're gonna use your price? I'm missing that connection, where we have the right to take advantage of somebody else's discount. Is it because we're a municipality under the state of Connecticut, we're just automatically grandfathered?
I mean, I think the person to ask that would be the purchasing agent for the town of Stratford, not necessarily the town attorney, to instruct you guys how this actually would work. I mean, I'm reading the statute now that the ordinance references, and it seems to say that the Commissioner of Administrative Services would be the contracting agent for 3 municipalities. The statute says if 3 municipalities get together, the Director of Administrative Services can be the contracting agent. Okay. So, I mean, I would talk to Mike Bonner, the purchasing agent, the CAO, the finance director.
May I suggest that we move this forward, and then to the council with the favorable recommendation, but before we pass it, we will have the finance director and assure that the purchasing person for the town is present also to get their feedback on it before it comes to a final vote. But on face value, this seems, and because now that you refreshed my memory, it was generated from the finance department to start with. On face value, it seems like we should go ahead and at least try to move this forward, but do get their final input at the council meeting, and it can be tabled at the council meeting if need be.
Mr. Kadim?
Yes, thank you, Chair. When you look at this, we've been dealing with this for a little while now. I thought, this was a foregone conclusion, but when you look at the breakdown of it, part of it has to be questioned to the C of O and find out what direction we should take based upon what they know. I mean, it's okay to move to the council, but I think it should also be vetted before we get there. So it's been a while since we've been talking about the 7,500 bid process. So, I mean, it depends on, how you want to proceed from here. If it's something that's going to benefit us, of course you want to do that. But then when you see where it says, bidding is not required by law, clearly it states that you don't have to go out for bidding. You can just, do what you want more or less. So go ahead. It's something to look at. So I think it shouldn't just be quickly pushed along. I think we should get the parties that's involved with this purchasing process and find out where we stand on it before we say, okay, do it. Thank you.
Still on?
Mr. Chairman, I think that all of us have the right intentions with regards to this ordinance in terms of there being cost savings potential to the town and having, our purchasing agent, get involved and become part of this and spearhead the town's effort. But as I hear right now, we're looking for input from the Director of Finance, from the CAO's office, and now from the purchasing department. Again, I think this is going to be a little complicated to kind of do as a live fire exercise at a council meeting. I think we should look to get input from our town employees. I have a higher level of comfort with asking for that input from town employees as this is not outside counsel, and I think we will get expedited answers on this. But I'm not comfortable with moving this forward to the council level, given the amount of questions and unknowns at this point.
Ms. Mattis?
I think the only unknown at this point, after other questions have been answered, and I thank everyone for kind of sharing, my only unknown is, for example, Mr. Kadim's family goes down to, what is it, Costco that we have, or Big whatever this place is down here, he buys a family membership. He gets a discount. He can't give me that card, and I can't walk in there and get those same discounts, because that's his family that bought that card. I need to know from the town attorney, Mr. Florek, if as a agent of the state of Connecticut, if we have any right to any of those pricings that are there. Because if so, then everybody should be doing it, right? But I feel like it's a contract, because when I ask to use those contract numbers, they specifically ask me my address and which school I'm at. And it has to come up on their computer that we're an authorized agent of that. So there might be something we have to do with the state to become an authorized agent. I'm more than happy to do that and authorize that. That maybe have to become part of this. But I would like to know how we can use their BJ's certificate or their Costco thing, how we have any right to say we get your discount. I'm still missing that piece of how we could do it. But I'd like to do it.
Ms. Conte?
I just want to remind people why this is here. Right now, our town charter says that contracts over $7,500 have to go out for competitive bidding. This allows the town to purchase some things off of the cooperative purchasing plan. So this is, again, this is like the last one that we passed. This is specific to changing the charter through ordinance.
We're going to have a special meeting for ordinance, correct? For the next council meeting? Yep. So I'd move, what did we do with the last one? Did we table it until that meeting?
We moved it.
I'd move to table it and hopefully get some answers to those questions and then address it at the council meeting.
Second, Chair.
All right, so we have a motion to table them.
Second.
Table it, with advice from the town attorney, the CAO, finance, and purchasing department, all to please give us a little bit of advice on this.
Mr. Chair, can we truly get all that information? Are we going to get that information before the next ordinance, which is not even a month away, a couple weeks? Yeah, that's my only question. How slow is the administration going to work? How slow is this administration going to work? I want to make sure, like, now this is two ordinances. We're relying on, attorneys, administration to get us answers before an August 14th meeting. I'd like to make sure that we're going to have those answers, and we can guarantee we'll have those answers in order to go forward with our August 14th ordinance
Point
meeting.
of order, is there a motion to table before us, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
Then your responsibility should have been, there's no discussion, we vote on the tabled motion.
But there is discussion.
The motion is to table, there's no discussion, Mr. Chairman.
Was it seconded?
Was the motion to table seconded?
It was seconded twice.
Say it's a non-debatable motion.
All in favor of tabling?
Aye.
Aye.
Chair says aye, unanimous.
Mr. Chairman, I move we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Beth, can we take a 5-minute?
Hey, Beth?
Council, Monday, July 24th, 2017. This meeting is being held because there were a few items that have come up since the last town council meeting that just need to be taken care of. The first item is the parking lot renovations for Nichols School. Shall I call on Bill Young to shepherd us through this?
Yes, this is renovations for the parking lot at Nichols School, turnaround, expanding and making the facility a lot more usable. There were 3 different bids, as I remember, that came out to this. It went to Building Needs. Building Needs has passed along the lowest bid that they approved to us and are looking for the council's approval so that they can actually start on this in the next week.
Okay.
Is that a motion?
Is there a motion to pass this?
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Okay.
I have a simple question. You mentioned turnaround, but I don't see anything in the document. What did I miss? I just saw parking lot.
We already,
I'm sorry, wait, there was a motion. Was there a second to that motion?
Second.
Okay, now discussion.
we
Ms.
actually
Zantezo?
approved the plan
Yep.
of this a few meetings ago, back in March, I believe.
Yeah, I remember.
But we don't have the actual picture of it here. I can bring it up on my phone or whatever, but, so this is the final step of all the approvals we've gotten through. Now the council actually has to award the bid.
Okay, Mr. Llewellyn?
Madam Chairman, by yourself, to Mr. Young and to answer Ms. Santezo's questions, on page 6 of the draft contract, there is actually at the bottom a list of the drawings that are involved, and it notes layout, landscaping, signage, pavement, site markings, sediment erosion control details, and some electrical work. So it is more than just a simple paving resurfacing project.
If I remember right, this turnaround will move traffic from Nichols Avenue and have people do drop-off off of North Avenue, and therefore remove a lot of the hazard and congestion that we all see on Nichols Avenue during in the mornings and at the release of school. Okay, so there was any more discussion on this? The amount is $345,000.
Excuse me.
It should
Madam
also, one second, Mark.
Yes, sir.
The motion should also note that the contractor to be awarded is G-Pick and Sons, just so that that's all in there for the record along with the contract amount.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Kadim?
Just a reminder, this is getting paid by the Board of Ed, correct?
It's in CIP, bud.
I know, because when we was in discussions with this, it was something at, when we was inside the, but Brother Llewellyn know where I'm going with this. This
Yes,
was-
actually, in the, in one of the pages that's in here, I think it's kind of the first or second page of the summary, it actually notes the organization number, the object number, and the project number. The 2 sources of funding for this, as identified by Councilman Young, one is labeled as Nichols Parking, and the other is also labeled as Nichols Parking. These would have come from Board of Ed projects listed in the CIP program.
Thank you, I just want to make sure. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Manis?
Parking lot renovations, we're in July. This is an area of concern and a safety hazardous area. I was at the meeting where the whole presentation happened. I know we're approving this today. School starts, the teacher says, in probably a month, and this is not going to get done in a month. I can't imagine this is going to be finished. So my question is when is the plan, what is the timetable on this project, and what is the plan to make sure that we don't make an unsafe situation unsafer by having construction happening right at the beginning of school? So what is Public Works, I guess that would be you, Mr. Young. What is the plan for this? What is the timeline, and how are we going to keep people safe?
The
Hey,
plan...
Mr. Young?
Yes, thank you. Ms. Manis, the plan initially was for the very end of school, and it was supposed to start right then. Unfortunately, somebody in Town Hall did not notify us that this had not gotten the final approval on the actual bid. We approved the plans, we did everything we did. The CAO told me he thought it was ready. Now, they've been told by the Director of Public Works and the CAO that the company is ready to go. They've just been waiting for this right here. So, this is the final step. They assure it can be done by the beginning of school, by the beginning of September, and that there is enough time to get this done.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Mr. Kadim?
Yes. To my understanding, when we was in the meetings, this is off to the side, so this construction I don't think really would affect the front in the way they're dropping down. So I think we should be fine in terms of having a problem in terms of that, because that was one of the concerns I spoke about when we were in the meetings, but it was showing the diagrams and so forth. I was like, so what's that going to do with traffic? It's off to the right side, which doesn't affect the front and Nichols, so we're fine. We should be fine. Just to start, it would be amazing so they can get done. So I'm glad that it's here now. Thank you.
Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion passes unanimously, 10-0. The next thing on the agenda is the waiver of pavilion rental and parking fees for Narcotics Anonymous. This was favorably referred from the Special Short Beach Commission meeting of July 20th, 2017. This was waived last year, and they are actually a wonderful organization. Mr. Llewellyn, I
Yes.
call on you because you were chair of the Short Beach Commission.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. So, again, let it be resolved that the recommendation of the Short Beach Commission is accepted, and the pavilion rental and parking fees for Narcotics Anonymous for their event to be held on August 6th be and is hereby approved, and I would make a motion to accept.
Second?
Okay, seconded by Mr. Chase. Discussion, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, that motion passes unanimously. The next thing were items that were referred from the Arts Commission. These were not directly referred to the chair of the town council, which was why they were not on previous agendas. The first item is Blues on the Beach, for there to be a $7,500 donation to Blues on the Beach that is being held this Saturday.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Okay, is there a second? Second. All in favor, say aye. I'm sorry, discussion? Okay, all in favor.
Discussion.
The 7,500
Discussion.
is from, the donations from who? Are we donating to them?
To Blues on the Beach.
We're doing that, the town.
No.
Last year, the town council had, because there were issues with the, how should I say this? It would be coming from account 01151-6602. That's the town council. That's the town council's account where money was set aside for the Arts Commission.
Because-
So the Arts Commission wants that money
Because
donated.
when the mayor was here the other month, I know he's been busy, he stated that he already had the money put aside from last year for Blues on the Beach, so I don't know why we need to put more money aside. I'm just trying to make sure that we're not giving money that's already allocated, because he said it already was passed from last year's budget.
Yeah.
I just want to be clear.
Thank you for raising that. Mr. Farrington-Posner?
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. So I wasn't on the town council back when the council decided to take the money out from the Arts Commission and put it over to the council contingency fund. Now, refresh my memory, how much money was put into the council's contingency?
I believe it was $20,000 that the
Okay.
Arts, so it was a
And-
zero. It was just for there to be more oversight.
Okay, so that was last year, and now we've passed the fiscal year. How much money is left over in that?
I don't have that figure in front of me.
Okay, now, my next question is, Well, first now I'm wondering how much money is actually left in that to be able to be allocated to this. Second is, what exactly is this $7,500 going to? I'd like to see a breakdown of what the $7,500 is being used for, because I know the council wanted to have oversight over the Arts Commission due to some questionable dealings of the Arts Commission in the past, which I'm sure you're well aware of, Madam Chair. And that is why the money was taken from them with oversight for the council to have oversight. So now I'd like to know where this $7,500 is going to and a specific breakdown of that.
Okay, is there anybody here who can respond to that? Provide more information?
Does anybody have the muni?
Okay.
It wouldn't be in there.
Mr. Llewellyn, I'm going to,
Yeah, I just wanted to indicate for people's information that these Arts Commission items that we're acting on are actually from their April 12th of 2017 meeting, so my guess is going to be that they were using funds from their prior year's allocation. So I just wanted to point that out. Well, yeah, the 2016 budget.
I'm guessing, but I'm assuming that most of the 7,500 goes to the bands.
Is there any kind of, is there anything we could actually look at that says what the breakdown is and where it's going to?
my understanding was that Blues on the Beach costs in excess of $20,000 to put on, so this is not covering the entire thing, but
Doesn't it come, excuse me,
I'm not on the Arts Commission.
doesn't most of it come out of the mayor's budget?
I believe they do, they also do fundraising.
Madam Chair, that was
Madam-
my understanding of it.
Madam Chair, according to the council clerk budget that we have, item 011016681, which is called
This
council
comes out of 6602.
6602, is not even listed under council clerk.
Would be the Arts Commission.
So that would be the,
I believe we created a separate line just for the Arts Commission funds so we could
Yeah.
provide the oversight
not on the
as
muni.
they spend the money.
01151-6602.
it's 66, oh, here it is, and it's 011516602 is anticipated expense.
Right.
It's got $322,000 in it, and at this point, its remaining balance is $43,146.41. That's the available budget on that line, which is 011566602,
That's
anticipated
not,
expense.
Madam Chair, that's not the intended line
That's
for,
not
that
the
the
line.
Arts Commission money was supposed to be in.
I'm sorry, I'm just reading from here, the line. Carol, where did this? Arts Commission. This came from the Arts
It's
Commission?
going to be in agencies, so agencies are,
It's not an agency,
it's not under the
No.
agencies?
no.
So if it was, I looked under council, our council contingency, our council committee fund and our council contingency was very large to begin with. Our council contingency started with $11,000. Council committee started with $34,000. So it's one of those two lines, correct? It has to be. Those are the only lines under council clerk.
You can't take it out of anticipated expenses.
No, I think it's in that council committee line, because I think the $14,000 is the fund for food for council meetings and
Right.
committee and subcommittee events, and the other $20,000 in that line is the Arts Commission
Yes.
money.
So the remaining balance in that is $17,272.61 currently.
More sense.
I would, on a side note, I think the muni should be at every meeting that we have. We should have a copy of it, most up to date, because we're talking about monies here, and we should know what money's there. So this is, just on a side note, I don't know if the council clerk could provide, just to have a copy on hand, but that is, according to this, $34,600 started the fiscal year, and as of June 2017, expenses were $17,272.61. It's 50% spent, which means that they still have, if that's their money, there's still some of their money in there. I wouldn't
I
know
believe that's correct.
what was spent on food and things like that for us, so I don't know.
But that's as of June, so, yeah,
Madam Chairman,
yes,
can we move the question?
okay. All in favor of moving, is there a second for moving the question? Second. Okay, all in favor of moving the question, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Opposed.
Okay. That motion
Opposed.
Opposed.
passes 7-3. Okay. Now we're voting on whether to, on making that $7,500 donation to Blues on the Beach. All in favor, say aye.
Roll call.
Okay, Mr. Farrington Posner?
Pass.
Mr. Kadim?
Because of my understanding of the fact that the mayor said he had the money for it, I'm gonna have to say no.
Okay, Mr. Harden? Yes. Okay, Mr. Can?
Is it too late to ask for clarification on which account it's coming from?
It says 011516602, but I believe that's a misnomer.
The correct number, if I may interject, is, if
This
it's
is
coming,
late, though.
it's 6, sorry, I'm interjecting. 01101-6460 is the one that I was reading off.
If it's not corrected in the record, then I'm going to vote no.
Okay, Mr. Young?
Yes.
Ms. Antezo?
Yes.
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 Ms. Manis?
Yes.
Mr. Farrington Posner?
No.
And the chair votes yes with reservations. That passes 7-3, and, but we will be getting better clarification on this.
Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you.
The next item on the agenda, again, is a referral from the Arts Commission. It's the PAL Sandcastle competition to make a donation of $800 for that to PAL. Again, this should be coming from the Arts Commission budget that was set aside. I believe these numbers are incorrect.
So moved, Madam Chairman.
Second.
Okay,
Madam Chair.
discussion. Ms. Manis?
Okay, so now there's my question. As I understand PAL, and PAL in other towns is a huge fundraising organization. So my question is why are we donating to an organization that that does fundraising already? Like, I'm unclear as to why they need an $800 donation. What is that covering? Like, because they're already a nonprofit that has capacity. Does anybody know?
Madam Chair, I
Mr.
believe
Llewellyn.
that the $800 is for the prizes that are awarded as part of the Sandcastle competition, and I believe
okay.
the Arts Commission is a co-sponsor of the event with PAL.
Thank you.
Okay, any more discussion? If not, I'd like to move the question. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All opposed? Okay, that motion passes 10-0. The third thing is the Main Street Festival. Again, this is...
Did you vote on that, Madam Chair? I thought you just voted to move the question.
No, I said I'd like to move the question.
Oh,
And I just
okay, and then you didn't, okay.
Not call.
Yeah,
Move the question. So that was approved 10-0?
yes.
Okay.
10-0. The next item on the agenda is the Main Street Festival to pay an amount not to exceed $300 for space and festival.
Did that always take place?
It already took place, and it says not to exceed 300. I'm not sure what was spent or what they're exactly asking for. I can understand that as of April 12th, but this seems like...
Madam Chair,
Mr.
again,
Llewellyn.
I believe this $300 is for their space at the Main Street Festival, and they also have the paint and the Frisbees. They do the Frisbee spinner for the kids.
So this was...
Is it 2 spaces?
So the
Okay.
amount that we're approving is actually 300, or up to?
The amount that I know of, I can guess, looking at it, was 2 spaces. It's usually a large space, so they take up 2 usually. And then the items that they have are just there. So it's not to exceed 300. I believe a space is $75.
Yes.
So it's $150 for 2 spaces, plus the arts and the supplies for the Frisbee sprinters and stuff, which some of it is already, they already have it. It's an in-kind. They keep it. I think
Okay.
Margot keeps that stuff, so she has all of that. Or she did. They just use it over and over again. Like, they have a bunch of Frisbees, and they bring them. But if they need, like, more yellow paint or red paint or things like that, they have to go out and buy it.
Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr.
Yeah.
Farrington Posner?
I think there was other things they were doing there too, other activities with the kids in the community, I believe, like, face painting and stuff like that. So, I mean, for $150 for the space and then another $150 for supplies, I'm totally fine with that.
Okay.
My
All
sister
in-
did space painting. She
Okay,
had
all
to
in
buy it.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, that motion passes 10-0. The last item on this special meeting agenda was referred with favorable recommendation from the Building Needs Committee meeting of July 17th, 2017. This is asbestos in Worcester School Library. Asbestos was discovered in the library while other work was being done. This asbestos needs to be remediated. The quotes received and a 10-day notification is necessary to the state of Connecticut. This would be approving I believe it's a change order of $22,236.97 to deal with the remediation of the asbestos. Okay, move the.
Yes, Madam Chairman, I make a motion that we approve this expense. The,
Second.
Okay,
thank you,
Discussion.
Mr. Chase. So the, Mr. Zachary over at the Board of Ed actually went to a website that's available to them where they're able to directly procure and have contractors bid on abatement services. And so he was able to get quick turnaround, have a contractor bid on this. The name of the contractor, I don't remember what the acronym stands for, but it's AAIS. I've worked with them before. Again, as I said, they're a listed, well-known abatement company that does this type of work. Hinging on our approval is the starting of a 10-day clock with the Department of Public Health up in Hartford for the abatement filing. And again, they're looking, based on the sequence of meetings, if they get this approval now, they're looking to have this work done and get this asbestos taken care of before the kids come back to school.
okay. If there's no more
I
discussion,
had a
Mr.
question.
Kadim?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, the floor.
Based upon the fact that it's asbestos, and I know under some of the state laws that they do have, where you have reimbursement, do they have that going on with this one, is just immediate?
My guess is we could have either the town or the Board of Ed themselves look for reimbursement, but given that this is a summer project, it's impacting the program, impacting the reopening, we didn't have discussions about getting this into the reimbursement program at this point, but it's something that we can look into through building needs on the backside. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Okay, that motion passes 10-0. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, second?
Second.
All in favor of adjourning? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much.